Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Save Our Streets TV. I am your host today, William Rivas, here with my guest, John Scott, co-founder of Fourth Family.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate you, brother, for coming through.
Thank you for having me.
It's absolutely a blessing whenever you get to sit down and meet with somebody that's like-minded, with like energy, doing great things, not only in the community, but across the nation. The different lives you're able to touch. So I kind of want to get into a lot of that, some of the work you're doing. So give us an update. What is Fourth Family really all about?
Absolutely. So it's really special. It's like coming back home, and we got other things to talk about and build about. But Schenectady it plays a big part in the birthplace of Fourth Family. After I got hurt playing basketball back in 2011, I was coaching with City Rocks. And a lot of people know the story of Eddie Stanley, and rest in peace. And that was a real just changing moment in my life. And Fourth Family became therapy from that situation. Being young, 21, having to break the news to a lot of people, and just the whole situation. And I always tell them all the time, they watched First 48. I lived it. And it was an experience that still to this day I deal with every day. But long story short, Fourth Family was really birthed out of that in connection with my middle school classmate Joaquin Hope when he returned from Morehouse.
Okay.
We connected, and all of this kind of culmination that happened at the same time. And fast forward to now, man, we've got a great mentoring program, a nationally recognized STEM program that we can get into. And a Cherish the Chance program where we work with a lot of 16 and 17-year-olds, whether they be in Green Correctional Facility or other places, and also helping young men, get reacclimated back into society. Because as we all know, the justice system is not always as rehabilitative as we would like it to be. So. It's something where a lot of our brothers need help, finding jobs or having people vouch for them to get in certain places. So, that's another program that's really near and dear to my heart. But for right now, Fourth Family, we recently partnered with the NBA Summer League. Appreciate it. And that birthed from our STEM director, Dr. John Drazen, nice. Who's now out at UPenn doing some great work. But he was getting his doctorate in biomedical engineering at the time. We played college basketball at one of the many schools I went to. And, he came in and from there started working with some of my kids I was coaching at Albany High School, started doing some programming and ended up winning an MIT Sloan Sports Analytics Conference back in 2017.
That's dope.
And yeah, man, it's hosted by ESPN, and it was a really big deal. And after that, a lot of calls started coming in. So he had the opportunity to go to present his work at NBA Summer League a couple years ago. I was able to say a few words, and from there we were, guys like us, it's really just about getting the foot in the door,
Yeah,
man.
that's it. I peep a lot of your movements on social media, and I have to tell you, everything I've ever heard about you has just been absolutely amazing.
I appreciate it.
So it came to a point where it was like, eventually I was gonna have to meet you myself, because it was
respect.
like, listen, I got to meet this guy, and we have a lot of mutual friends who at some point it was just like, man, like I got to get in the same room with this individual. You know what I'm saying? Like I got to be in touch with the energy. And what I love about what it is that you're doing is whenever you see somebody and you see they come from a community and you see they come from a certain place, to see them give back the way you do unselfishly, because a lot of people don't really understand how much time.
Right.
We look at the glorious life of social media, but we don't really see the effort, the travel, things of that nature.
Right.
I love what I do, and I'm not, and I look at the scale in which you do things, and I would say to myself, like the drive that you have, the motivation that you have, the determination, like it's all inspiring. You know what I'm saying? So like that's why I really appreciate you taking the time, you know what I'm saying, to come with us and to be here today. Also, to be our keynote speaker on September 1st.
Looking forward to it, man.
For our third annual Back to School Classic, which is going to be it's gonna be dope. Me and my brother James Thomas Jr. We put a lot of work into that. That's my bro.
Yeah, big shout out to Jake. That's the big bro right there.
Shout out to James Thomas Jr. and James D. Thomas Jr. Foundation.
Absolutely.
So being able to have you be a part of that, as well is absolutely amazing. But like, what I want people to know is like you talk about like where you come from, how you got to where you at.
Absolutely. So I really think first and foremost, I'm a firm believer in God. I thank Jesus every day for the blessings I have, and a lot of my guys will tell you I don't really miss church too often. So none of this would be possible, without my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. But really, man, it's just a blessing to be here talking to you, man. My mother came to Albany back in the 70s with Alcoholics Anonymous. My mother, one of us crazy, one of my favorite movies is American Gangster. And my mother was like in Harlem at that time and was like dealing with a dude. So you had like Frank Lucas, then you had Nicky Barnes, and then you had Hollywood Harold. And my mother ran with Hollywood Harold, so seen a lot, and my mother being 73 in December, it's a blessing to be, you would never know that the wonderful church lady, never hear a curse. I've never seen her drink anything. But to see how she turned her life around, and a lot of people are not able to have that testimony, of beating drugs and alcohol. But she came up here with my brother, James, my big bro, and it's funny because our relationship, my brother, I tell you right now, with special ed, wasn't able to get his GED. But what he did instilled in me, allowed me to go to Albany Academy and be the only black kid in my grade, and be able to really get through that. So it's crazy the dynamics of our relationship. But my family, and my father's a dude from down south. So my brother and my mother from the city, my father's from Florida, country boy. So the dynamics of the crib was really funny growing up. You know what I'm saying? And my father's a hardworking dude, big family. Just an honorable dude, man, and I attribute all of the kind of things where I got it together to my father, because I look at a lot of brothers that I grew up with, and they didn't have that at home. You know what I mean? And it was very hard for them to have some of the knowledge I had growing up. So having that home base was really critical to me coming up. But long story short, I love the game of basketball. Grew up watching a lot of people like big bro Jakey, James Thomas, and was able to get, some help going to Albany Academy. Did okay there, ended up going to Iona College and LIU in Brooklyn. Ended up getting hurt, came back home, and that's when I started coaching. Okay. And right when that happened, I got hurt, career-ending back injury, felt crazy, felt like at 21 you hear it's over, and that's all you know your whole life, having to really reinvent yourself. And one of the reasons I can relate to the kids is I always keep it 100. I tell them my struggles. A lot of my stuff been public. You know what I mean? So when you're able to grow up, in front of people, sometimes it makes your testimony stronger, because they really know what you've been dealing with. You know what you persevered through. So when I came home, man, I was really in a different place, and it wasn't a good one. But Joaquin and I really connected, and he really helped get my mentals back. He always cracked on me because I was a bank teller at NBT Bank, and getting my 19 grand a year, and I was comfortable on my, and everybody got to start somewhere. So the funny part of the story is, he always tells it, I tell him, I'm gonna work my way up, and I'm gonna do this to do that, and he was like, yo, you're wilding, man. You got all of these different resources and things you can do, man. We should try this out. So I attribute Joaquin for really getting me in that entrepreneurial mindset, man, and that's what makes him a beast. And For Family would not be For Family without Joaquin Hope. A lot of times, my face is out there, and I'm the one working actively with the kids. But if you know me, I'm a pretty wild, nutty, kind of all over the place dude. I got a great heart, but I'm all over the place. So Joaquin really makes this machine go, man. And when we linked back up, that was good. But from there, I was working at Troy Prep. I was assistant dean of students. After I left the bank, we started getting a little notoriety working with kids. So For Family helped me get that. And Troy Prep was a great experience working there with the kids, and helping For Family go to the next level and really learning how the schools work, and this game, how this works. And that was at the time we got our 501c3. And you know how that process is, and you posted a status yesterday, made me laugh, but we'll talk about that. I felt that here. I showed my man, I was like, yo, I said, this is why we got to build with that brother. But, it was one of those things where worked in Troy Prep, then my father was a TA in Pine Hills Elementary School, and he was able to get me in there, and it was a better situation being able closer to him. Absolutely. I got older parents now, and my house is like a sitcom because they're retired and they're at the crib all the time. So their life is really on what's John doing, and it makes the dynamics funny. But really my story, man, and where we are now, coaching at Albany High School. I reconnected with some of my college teammates who connected to some real big entertainers and NBA players through Gifted Athletes, which we always repping. Shout out to my brothers and Gifted Athletes. Definitely the wave you want to get on if you're not on it yet. From there, just really started building a network, and it's just about grinding, man. And I'm in no position where we made it or anything like that. And it's funny because perception, and people can kind of see things going. But when you like us and you hustlers, you know how to maneuver through this game, and it's very hard. It's very hard being young, being black, being in a position where it's a lot of odds stacked against you. But having your mindset in the right place, having a great support system, and just being a good person, good-hearted person, man. People get behind you and support you. So
I think that's one of the most important gifts we can kind of give our youth in our community right now. Is that inspiration of our lives.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That self-sacrifice in grinding, in creating, entrepreneurial opportunities, in creating our own businesses, because, traditionally it's not something that's afforded to us in the communities of poverty. Right. So for our youth to not only work with you, but to see your journey, to understand your journey. For the longest, I couldn't really understand whenever somebody said to me, listen, you have a lot of potential. I'm like, I'm in the grind, so I'm thinking to myself, like, what's potential when I'm living check to check or things like that. But when you get, on the other side of that, then you start to see how one person can really impact a community. And you start to really appreciate that.
Absolutely.
I appreciate my opportunities with my youth, as well as I can see in your interaction, you love what it is that you do. You appreciate your opportunities with the kids and with the families that you work with. And I think, that's one of the most important things we can offer our people is that love, is that give back, because you're going to have youth that are interested in sports. You're going to have some that are interested in business. You're going to have some youth that may not understand what they're interested in until later on in life. But I think the biggest thing we can offer is that motivation. Like, listen, you don't have to do this. You can do anything you want, but just know you can do anything you want. You know what I'm saying? So when I see somebody like yourself, I'm saying to myself, like, that's what success looks like to me. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not talking like Kardashian success. I'm talking about like tangible evidence of success for us.
And it's obtainable, right? Yes. It's one of those things where I've lost a lot of people to gang violence, to street stuff, people in prison I'll never see again, living through really traumatic situations, man, to where I got desensitized to where I'm at now, and I can speak, when bad news comes in, it's just like a again kind of feeling, and that's not fair to that young man. He shouldn't have to grow up living like that. But the difference between kids in the inner city versus kids in the suburbs is we raise our kids to survive. You got to survive out here. You got to do what you got to do. Make them respect you. Make Mr. Reeves put some respect on your name. You got to survive out here. But if you're in the suburbs, it's with little Johnny. I didn't come from the suburbs, but there are little Johnnies. Yeah. Hey, you can be anything you want to be. I want you to strive to be anything. So you got this survive or strive mentality that I want our kids to experience that. So when I got over to Albany Academy, I was the only black kid in my grade. I had to represent us every day over there, and make them put respect on our name. And they got way more money than I do. So how do I do that off the basketball court? Because I want them to respect me as a person first. Right. So it's one of those things where my drive every day really comes from, the struggle that I went through. And really being from the bottom, and understanding that if you've really seen it, like if you've really been on the stand, if you've really been in a cell, if you've really been in a shootout, if you've really been poked up, you don't want that for these babies out here. You want different. So why not give them all of the resources that you can to have the exposure to be anything they truly want to be? And by no means am I a guy that has a plethora of resources, but what I love about myself is I put pressure on all these dudes that I know that can be doing it and that's not doing it. You put a lot of pressure on these dudes out here that's going to the casino every day, driving by these babies getting killed. you came from the street, right? And my thing is, I can only talk so much. I'm still here. You know, I'm not leaving. I'm still here. So it's one of those things where, you know, us coming together, man, is really how we save our streets.
And that, again, it was one of those things. The very first person I ever heard mention you and Fourth Family was Josh Baker. And I grew up with Josh, and, you know, I've known Josh forever. So when he was mentioned, I was like, Fourth Family. And I hadn't really heard anything about it. So then I thought it was a follow on Instagram or a like on Facebook. And let me see. And then the more I started looking, I'm like, I love it. You know what I'm saying? Like when you see a person's a grind. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, like you say, coming from the bottom, like hustle respects hustle. You know what I'm saying? When you come from a certain place and you see a certain person putting in a certain amount of work, when I see you moving, the first thing I say to myself is that man ain't slept. Either he ain't slept or he ain't ate yet. Because in a matter of 3 Instagram posts, he done went from this city to that city to another airplane. And again, it's one of those things in which, you know, I make sure to share and show my kids and see that, because one thing about me, what I understand is all my youth are not going to look at me and be like, I'm their version of success. And I'm okay with that. You see what I'm saying?
That's the key.
My job is just to open the door and create the opportunities so that they can see whatever it is that is success to them. It's to create the opportunity for them. I understand. You know what I'm saying? And it's something I really had to learn, because coming into this community work, social work, you get the one man can save the world mentality.
Absolutely.
And you like, nah, I can solve everybody's problems. And you gotta really look at yourself and be like, what am I really trying to solve? Am I trying to solve their problems, or am I trying to solve mine? You know what I'm saying? So my wife was really good in helping me, like, William, you're great, you can do great things, but you gotta have a broader perspective. Look at this holistically. And that's when I started saying to myself, like, you know what? I got to create more opportunities for my kids to see other people that are successful, not only just for them, but when I think about some of the barriers that I have as an adult, it came from my experience as a kid. So when you have youth, you know, with very little resources, grow up in trauma and struggle in one area, they grow up to be adults with barriers against people that didn't have those issues. So I say to my kids, like,
that's heavy.
The greatest thing I can do for my youth is to remove those barriers. So the conversations I have with my youth are, listen, all I want you to do is just remain kids. Remain innocent. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
Keep your energy pure.
Keep pure, man.
Let me take care of all the adult stuff. You know what I'm saying? So in that, I take on a lot, but I have such a bond, a relationship with the youth that I work with, which I appreciate. Because, you know, a lot of times they tell me I inspire them. I'm like, no, you guys inspire me, because it took me 30-some years to get where I'm at. You guys have that opportunity to impact the world sooner, because you get to learn a lot of lessons now. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's my goal. It's to create an opportunity for you to be better than me. Not as good as me, not to walk in my footsteps. Nah, I want you to be the best version of you can be. So like last year we did a series of t-shirts for the kids, and t-shirts said greatness over hatred. And the reason behind that was we accept the greatness in each other rather than take part in the hatred that destroys our worlds and our community. You know what I'm saying? So our kids were, they were running around with the t-shirts and they were all super excited about that. But to see them really embrace and understand that concept, like one of the best things for me is when I get a call from a parent and they're like, listen, my son has been working with you for 2 years. And in 2 years, he's changed his attitude at home. His grades have become better in school, and he's become a leader in the community. That's impact for me. You know what I'm saying? Because when we're talking about the kids in our community, I think a lot of times people look at the negative and they never take into perspective how resilient our youth are. When you think about gang, when you think about violence, when you think about teenage and young people and everything that they're going through right now, for them to stay in school and continue to make good decisions, like it's you know, it's tough right now. Like,
and this is the thing, King, and he'll tell you, like, I don't associate myself with a lot of people, you know, and it's a lot of people get left on red, and it's nothing disrespectful. It's just I know the origin of your energy, and you are so 100 that your light is gonna shine regardless, and it does. So like I it's everything you're saying about me, I can say the same thing about you. So I'm like, yo, Jake, who is bro? And then I'm like, oh nah, and I know how Jake moves. Jake like is me, you know, in terms of mentality wise. So I was like, bro had to be efficient over time. I've seen nothing but, and I've seen things that you've been able to get accomplished that a lot of people haven't. And the thing that people don't really understand about the youth here is, we know by design a lot of things just are the way they are. Structurally, things are put in place to oppress a certain group of people.
That's a fact.
Especially
make sure you check, rewind that back.
Right. Especially from, an economic, just disadvantaged neighborhood. And my whole thing is that's nationwide. But this is how I put it to my kids. And because I had to sit back and wonder, why are things so ridiculous in my hometown? Because once I started traveling, I started seeing, this is not like this everywhere. Like, this is really bad. Like, why is it this way? And unfortunately, we know what kind of runs the world. Everything's run by money. And, America's in a lot of debt, but it's still the land of opportunity. People come here to make money. So when you think about what runs the world, right? Now you think about where a lot of the money is at in America, coming in and out in America, right? Now you look at where a lot of the terrorist attacks were, you look at where a lot of the trade is, where it's in New York. There's a lot of stuff going on in New York. Now, here's your Jay-Z double entendre, right? We're in the capital of New York, right? So you got capital money, and then you have capital, like the location. We're in the epicenter, Albany, Schenectady, Troy, surrounding areas, of all of that. So when you think about the things, and you can get in trouble for talking about this, but we really trying to save our streets. Absolutely. So I'm about to keep 100. When you're talking about where it's going to be the worst at, where it's going to be a model for everything, we're in the middle of it. So for those people that get impatient with kids who are making mistakes that we would have made, but it's just worse now because it's on social media, or kids come back with a gun, or it's just a different time and period. It's unfair, and that's really where my heart really goes out to the youth, because they have a lot of odds stacked up against them, and I commend the kid making the right decision. And I do anything I can do for him to let him know and encourage him to keep doing that, because at the same time they're also in a time and era where being an entrepreneur, having an idea, you could be a millionaire the next day. So
I love that.
So I also, it's hardest now being a 15-year-old, 14-year-old kid than it's ever been. But at the same time, there's more 14 and 15-year-old millionaires than it's ever been. Yeah. So that's their motivation to stay on track.
And I think that's one of the most interesting things about this time right now, because as we look at the world in turmoil, right now there are so many more people that are reaching out on their ideas. Traditional education, people are leaving traditional education, traditional employment.
Right.
So you have a lot more people that are stepping out and creating those entrepreneurial opportunities, because they're looking at things and they're like, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna get a degree, I'm gonna owe $60,000 for a job I may only make $20,000 with. Right. So for a lot of these kids, I feel like because they have access to so much information through social media and through their phones at a time, like they're able to make better decisions on the fly. Now, you might sometimes, we look at the negative activity about it, because their decisions, when you can make bad decisions, but you're going to make bad decisions based off horrible information. So when you look at what our kids in our communities, what they're seeing individuals like them being shot and killed. They're seeing the violence. They're seeing, the unemployment rates. They're seeing, the housing setups and things like that. They start to look at the system as a whole like, I'm gonna take a step back from that. I got this music idea. You got a music idea. Let's step out together and let's do this. So you see more kids embracing sports.
Yes.
Than ever. But when I was a kid, there were a lot of kids that play sports, but they didn't embrace it as like a career. I see right now there are a lot more youth that are really taking their opportunity in sports a lot more serious. You know what I'm saying? And I think part of it has to be, as a community, we have to come together. We have to do better.
Absolutely.
And holding ourselves and the families and everybody accountable to do more for our kids. Because I think for a long time we got in this rut of waiting for somebody else to do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like a program is going to come along and they're going to do this for us, and they're going to take. And we're not in that space anymore. When you have people like myself and yourself, like no, we out here. There's a certain amount of respect you command when you're at it. I find it interesting that if I'm at an event in the park and a fight breaks out. The police look to me and other community leaders to break it up before they go over and address it.
Absolutely.
And it's the same police that used to chase me and my friends when we was kids. Like.
But there's a reason for that, and it's the respect level.
Yeah.
And it's also here's the key thing, nobody knows your kids like these kids. You know, so that's the biggest thing about it. And, you know, the connection that you have, you know, I've had police officers saying, yo, you helping the crime rate, you know, because they know, you know, I'm not in it to get an award. I'm not in it to get a news story. I'm not in it to get an article. Those things have come along and they're great, and I thank God for them. But at the end of the day, this is for Eddie Stanley. You know, this is for L. This is for, you know, all of these young black men in these streets that have gone before. You know, their time has really been. So, you know, that's what keeps me motivated, keeps me driving, and it's a collective effort. I can't stress that enough. You know, it's something that you have to really love. You know, and like I said, you meet kids where they're at, and nobody knows our kids like our kids. You know, our STEM program is a hit because we did something unconventional. We showed kids how you can get better at basketball using science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And you don't believe me? Well, here's the NBA telling you with me it's gonna work. The NFL, Google, FIFA, I mean, you name it. And now it becomes something cool. And you know, it's a blessing to be a utensil that God has, you know, used to really give back to the kids. And we got a responsibility, King. We got a responsibility, and we got our work cut out for it.
All right, well, before we break out, I'd like to thank John Scott, co-founder of Fourth Family. What can we expect from Fourth Family in the future? Absolutely.
Definitely got few big things coming with our mentoring program. We've got a lot of things in the works all over the country, but locally what's exciting for my people here locally is the fact that I think, you know, everything that we're going to be trying to take nationally, we're going to be centralizing here and bringing a lot of people who would not normally be in Albany or Schenectady and Troy here. So
that's exciting.
We're in contractual mode, so I don't want to say too much. You know how this game is, but we working.
That's awesome. We working. Again, this is William Rivas, founder of Save Our Streets. Thank you for tuning in to hashtag Save Our Streets today with my special guest, John Scott, co-founder of Fourth Family. Stay tuned. Make sure you check out the pages. September 1st, September 2nd, Central Park, Back to School Classic and Community Day. Thank you for tuning in.